Hello, YouTube. This is Lamar Ramsey. Um, this is my second follow-up video to a new YouTube channel called Aqua Right LLC Ecosystem. And what we're going to talk about today is the ecosystem on Long Island. I want to try to give people who live on Long Island some background about their water and how it's affecting their body. So let's get into the video a little bit, and we're going to try to keep this nice and short. Try to make it like a 30-minute video or so. So let's get into it. So basically what you're looking at is Long Island. Anybody who lives in New York recognizes this outstretch of land that shoots out. It encompasses Brooklyn, Queens, which is a part of New York City, and then two counties, Nassau and Suffolk County. So on that island is a aquifer system, which basically is a giant cave underneath the feet of everyone who walks on Long Island, and it's like 90 trillion gallons of water. So it's a tremendous amount of water. So when it rains or snows or any kind of precipitation hits the ground, it goes through the soil, through the silt, through the sand, and into the aquifer system. So that's how Nassau and Suffolk County get their water. They actually drill holes in the ground. The local water companies, and there's a lot of them, like almost every little municipality has their own local water company. They're private companies and they work under rules of a utility, so they have boards that they have to answer to and that kind of thing. But they're private. Some towns like to control their own. Some, like mine, they use a big Fortune 500 company to do their water, but there's a whole lot of little individual water companies on Long Island. It's not just one big thing. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the types of reports and water reports that they put out to the public, and they send these things out at least once a year. They send out the water report to all the residents. So every water company, even though there's a whole bunch of different ones, they have to send these reports out by law to their customers to let them know what's coming out of their faucet based on the testing that they've done. So we're going to look at that. So like I said, I just wanted to start with Long Island. We're a water company. Company's called Aqua Right LLC. We do water purification, but I feel like we do it in a bit of a different way. I have a degree in biology, so all of my employees and staff, we all look at things from a biological point of view. How is this going to make me more healthy? How am I going to benefit from getting clean water? It's not just about I have a filter, because a lot of times people are selling filters and that kind of thing. They don't know what they're selling. They don't know why they're selling it. They think every filter is the same, that there's no difference between the Brita and a whole house filter or reverse osmosis. It's just filtered. So we're going to dive into that just a little bit, but this is actually more about informing you about what's in the water, and so that you get a sense of why this is important. Because a lot of people, I don't think, tie all the pieces together. That's why they say, oh, I don't need that. I've been drinking this water all my life. I've been living on Long Island all my life. And they just think that it's that they've been living healthy because they haven't seen any effects yet, or they haven't felt anything. But I can tell you, over time, and I've lived on Long Island my entire life, over time, you will start to see the effects. And the other thing that's interesting is, I mean, we probably have in our client list of customers that we've served with water filters, we probably got maybe 200, 300 doctors in our client list. All different types, cardiologists, internists, everything, anesthesiologists, doctors from Sloan Kettering, And what's interesting is when I asked these guys, and a lot of these doctors, I asked them, I said, listen, I know you called us, you want a filter, you were recommended by another doctor in your office, that we take care of not just water softening, but we also take chemical out of the water. And they were like, yeah, that's why I called you, another doctor referred you. And the first thing I say to them is, well, why is it that you want to filter your water? Man, that conversation turns into a whole host of things that, it's like when you work in a certain industry and you see the effects of things over and over and over and over and over, it's only natural that when you deal with your own family, you say to yourself, I'm not going to deal with that right now. I'm gonna fix this because I suspect that there's some other things going on here is the reason why I'm seeing the results that I'm seeing. Now I'm talking in generalities because I don't want to I don't want to bog this YouTube channel down with a lot of things. I want you guys to see what I'm seeing. That's what I'm really trying to do because I touch a lot of people. I go into a lot of households. I hear a lot of stories about people who have cancer and their doctor said clean up the water. People who have children with like emotional issues, autism, and they're saying to me when they are exposed to the water, they're having emotional problems. They're having, so the doctor's saying they can't have certain things in their water because it's going to set them in a bad pattern. And the doctors are telling individual patients about these things, but the general public is not really seeing all of these things. I'll give you another example. I have a customer who's a veterinarian, and he's been a veterinarian for like 30 years. And he said when he first started, the dogs and the cats and stuff and, other animals that would come in, it was, you'd see like a lump, a little cancer every once in a while. He's like, it wasn't like, you would have to like learn how to study to look for it. He says now in his practice, almost every one out of every 3 cats that come in have cancer now. Same with dogs, have cancer now. And he was like, it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. He was like, every year we're like oncologists for animals now. That's all we deal with is cancer and gastro problems. They're vomiting or they're pooping, a lot of diarrhea and stuff. So I asked him, I said, listen, I see you're getting a water system and everything. So obviously you feel like there's something going on. So he was like, yeah. He was like, basically, the dog or the cat is like the canary in the cave. Back in the day, they would tell you, if you worked in the coal mines of West Virginia, you bring a canary with you. If the canary keels over, get out of the cave because you're next. So he was like, yeah, we're looking at this thing. And, I started thinking about why these animals are coming in. Or is it the food? Is it the water? What is it? And he says, I just started to realize that, and we've gone to some conferences and things where everybody all over the country, they're seeing the same thing. There's toxicity on the ground. Like all these chemicals and stuff as humans that we spray on the ground, that we put in the ground. Dogs and cats, they live on the ground. They lick themselves. They put their foot in their mouth. They clean their backside with their mouth. And he's like, the toxicity is getting to the point now where they're coming down with cancer all the time. They're letting you know we don't live on the ground like that. We live in a more sanitized condition, but they're letting us know that first us, then you. So I say all that to say this. We're trying to educate our customers and just people in general about what's really going on in the environment and how it's affecting their biology, their microbiome, their ecology, and things that they live in the house. So let me get started with one thing to let you guys know where we're going with this conversation. So I'm going to show you some of the chemicals that are in the water in at least one location. I think I'm going to pick Glen Cove because I was just up there a couple of days ago, and I was in Glen Cove, and I did this for a customer who just got a water system. And so we're going to look at Glen Cove. And I also want to talk to you guys before we really hop into the chemicals in the water and the water reports. I just want to share with you a few things that I think that maybe you may not be privy to as far as like you're thinking about your own body, because this whole thing is tied in and it's very, very important. So before I get into that, let me flip the screen and talk to you guys about some of these things. Well, actually, I don't have to flip the screen. Let me just go right into it. So let me get out of this, and we're gonna go into photos. Okay. So now, what we have here is a screenshot of a study that was done in a major university. I think it was University of California did a study in it, talking about basically what your human body is made up of. So this is important because I think we think of ourselves as we're the most, and when we look at our bodies, we look at our bodies like we are the primary thing. And like I told you guys in the last video, we're not the primary thing. What makes a human is not a bunch of human genes. What makes a human is the microbes that help us live as humans. So what people are starting to realize is that for many years, and as we get to modern medicine, we have been treating the human side of things and not treating the microbial side of things. And what's been illustrated now is we are mostly made up of microbial genes. And that's what this is illustrating. So in a human being, you will have 20,000 thereabout human genes in your body. And these are the things that you hear people talking about all the time. The Human Genome Project, and people go on Ancestry. These are the genes that they're looking at. They're trying to see what genes match your brother and your cousin, your sister, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm into that stuff. I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff and finding out you got like 50,000 cousins all over the United States, which is interesting. But the human genes only make up a small part of who we are. The other part of the genes that we're expressing in our body is between 2 and 20 million microbial genes that you're expressing in your body every day. So if you only focus on the human side of health, you're only focusing on 1% of your body. The other percentage, 99% of you, when it comes to genes, is microbial genes that work in symbiosis with you. So they eat the food, they digest the food, they die, they give off hormones, and they die or they excrete different metabolites that you digest, and then your genes take up and your genes use. So if the microbes are not right, you're not going to be right. So that's the point. If the microbes are not right, then you're not going to be right. So when we look at, like I said, the genes, 20,000 human genes as opposed to 2 to 20 million microbial genes. 2 to 20 million microbial genes. So we need to focus on the microbes, because if you're missing some microbes, then you will be missing some things that your human genes need. And that's the point. So when we look at the water and what's in the water and what's there in the water killing single cell organisms, that's mostly what microbial genes are, single cell organisms, then you can deduce that if you drink chlorinated water, which most of us have coming in our homes if you don't have a filter, if you jump in a pool, chlorinated water is chlorine, and chlorine is bleach, and bleach is there to kill single cell organisms, because these microbes, these 22 to 20 million microbe genes that are expressing, these microbes are inside and on the outside of your body. They're on your skin, they're in your organs, they're everywhere. They're in your hair, they're in everything. So if you are wiping them out on a regular basis, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage health-wise. And that's why we're going to dive into what's in the water on Long Island today, because I want you guys to see what's wiping out your biome, because it's bigger than this stuff is just poisoning me. It's doing that too, But the other thing it's doing in a big way is it's killing your microorganisms, which actually are going to affect how fat you are, how skinny you are, how well you think, how well you go to the bathroom. All these things are tied into your microbes. So that's why we're going to focus on that today, because it's actually very important. So when you look at this thing, you are, in your body, you have 30 trillion human cells and you have 39 trillion microbial cells. So you're only 43% human. The rest of you is microbial. So these are important concepts that you need to think about when you're looking at your body and how it works and what you're eating and ingesting and breathing and bathing in. You need to think about these things because you could be affecting your body. Now, the doctors and things that I've spoken to over the years, a common theme keeps coming back. And one of the themes is there are many doctors that are our customers that believe that they want to eliminate the chlorinated water in their household, because this is the theory. If I work in a hospital and I'm going into a place where people are sick constantly, for whatever reason, some things are internal, some things are viral and bacterial wise. We know hospitals have a lot of things. That's why, everybody tries to, I don't know anybody who wants to go to the hospital and lay in a hospital bed. That's just not something that anybody wants to do. But doctors and nurses and things, they don't have a choice. That's where their job is. They have to go in there every day and do their thing. And there are a lot of doctors that we've come across that when I asked them about why they're cleaning up their water and why is it so important, I even had one doctor who actually talked to me. He took 18 months to figure out which water company he was going to use before he picked us. So I saw him like 18 months and he called me. He was like, "You're the guy." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Who are you?" And he was like, "We talked like almost 2 years ago. And I finally completed my research and I think you guys are the company I need to work with." So, I mean, it's in their nature to be very analytical. And I mean, a good doctor is not just there to collect a check. I mean, they spend a lot of hours and a lot of them don't make the kind of money that you think, because they have like all these big bills they got to pay and heavy insurance and all those kind of things. So, I mean, most of the people that I've seen, I mean, they really love what they do, but they also are big thinkers. They thinking about their own health and their own family's health and that kind of thing. So when I talk to them about why they're getting the system, and I kept hearing the same thing. You want to keep your system optimal. You don't want to bathe in chlorinated water, kill off a whole bunch of single cell organisms that are on the outside of your body, kill and then have that stuff absorb inside your skin, and then go to work in a place that you're under attack. You want to keep your body at a place where you're going in with all your microbes and everything is intact and your skin is good and you're not having rashes and things and you're not absorbing chemicals in your blood that's going to make your biome say, "Oh my goodness, we're getting attacked." And then you go into a setting where there's a virus that's going around and you get sick. The reason why, and we all know people like this, there are some people in your lives that every time you talk to them, you're like, "Man, you got another cold? You're sick? Oh, I got this. Oh, I got that." Every time you turn around, every three or 4 months, they got a cold, or they got the flu, or they got something. And you're saying to yourself, "Wow, I'm going to stay away from them. They always got something." There's always those people. And then there's these people who you see them every day, or you see them all the time, and they seem to never get sick. Like they're around people that get sick. Somebody could get sick in their household, and they don't get sick. The difference between these people is there are people whose microbiomes are intact more than other people. And your body has been around, this system that we call a human body has been developing for thousands of years. So over that time, before modern medicine, it was already putting in systems to knock things off. So people who have healthy biomes don't get sick like that. So like when you think of a doctor going in a hospital, let's say I'll give you like one of my patients doctors that coming to mind is a pediatrician. When you think about her and her practice, I mean, she's either seeing people who are healthy and therefore a checkup or to get their shots, but the other side of her business is mostly my baby is sick, I got to bring him in. And they're sick with a whole bunch of strep throat, flu, bacteria, hoof and mouth disease. I mean, like all of these things that kids get that seem to get more of as you get an adult and you get your immune system adjust. For most people, these things start to calm down. But what's interesting is that these pediatricians and the ones that I have, the reason why they want a water system is because they know if I keep my system optimal, I can hold the baby, touch the baby, talk to the baby can sneeze in my face, and I'm not going to get sick. I mean, they wouldn't be able to make a living if they were getting sick 24/7. Every time somebody came in with a flu, they caught the flu. Every time somebody came with a bacteria infection, they got the infection. They would never be at work. So I'm saying this to you because I want you to see how important your microbes are. So if you keep everything in balance and in order, and you're able to not kill off important bacteria to keep your system healthy and important viruses to keep your system healthy, because viruses are not always something that's bad, that's going to make you sick. There are viruses and funguses in your body that actually keep you well. If you keep these things operating optimally, you will not get these issues. And it even gets back to what we're seeing with COVID. You know, when COVID first came, you know, when we first started seeing it, there were some people that were totally asymptomatic. They had the virus, but they had no symptoms. They're just walking around. Maybe they're walking around spreading it, not knowing it, but they weren't sick. We're still seeing that. I had a customer the other day. His wife got it. They have a 2-year-old. The 2-year-old's all over the wife all day. 2-year-old tested negative. Husband tested negative. Wife had to go through the sickness. Okay? Who knows why? But it has to do with some of your genetics and your microbiome and how, if you're missing something, it could affect how your body responds to certain things that are trying to attack you. So when we look at doctors and things that are cleaning up their water, I always like to ask the question why, and that same answer kept coming up. There are things in the water that actually will throw your body into a place where you'll be more likely not to be able to respond naturally to some of these viruses and things that'll make you sick. And they're in the business, they cannot get sick. Every time they get sick, they lose money. They're only as good as their last patient. They see you, they bill. They see you, they bill. If they're out sick, there's no billing going on. So they have an economic thing that they have to concern themselves with, and no one wants to be sick all the time. So they're cleaning up their water. And so when you start to dig deep into it, you find out why. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the water and what's in the water. So I'm going to change screens here, and I'm going to bring up a water report so you can see exactly what's in the water. Okay, so now, what you're seeing now is a map of Long Island. I just figured we'd do a visual. Long Island is an island. And on that island is completely surrounded by water, and underneath the bedrock of that island is a big tank of water, an aquifer system. That aquifer system gets water every time it rains or snows or something leaks into it. It also contains anything that was put into the soil is now in the aquifer system. So if you dump some oil out in your backyard on the side of your house, it's going in the aquifer system. If you got a leaky oil tank, it's going in the aquifer system. If you got a leaky gas station and the gas station has a leaky tank, it's going in the aquifer system. If you have companies that are dumping down the drain, like if they're pulling things down the drain that they're supposed to be actually disposing of in a proper way, it's going in the aquifer system. Anything you flush down a toilet is going in the aquifer system. Whether you have a septic system or you're on a sewer system, it's going in the aquifer system. So There's no special place for things that you flush or goes down your drain. Anything that goes down your drain, it gets cleaned up. They take off the bulk solids. They treat the water with things to kill living organisms, and they send that brown water back into the ground. Then it's sucked up back out of the ground. It's cleaned up again. It's sent to your home. So first thing we're going to look at is what's called a listing of Superfund sites on Long Island. Now this is just a short list. Well, I won't say it's a short list, but I'm not going to show you everything, but I want you to see the list. I'm going to try to zoom in on a little bit more so you get a bigger view of it. Okay, let me move over a little bit. See if you guys can see. So what we're seeing here, now these are what's called Superfund sites, which are federally and state designated sites for chemicals that are in the ground and in the groundwater on Long Island. So on the left-hand side is the polluter, and on the right-hand side is the actual contaminant that they found in the soil and in the water. And so this is just to give you an idea of how much stuff is been dumped industrially into our environment, just from business on Long Island. So if you keep your eye on the compound side, if you keep your eye on the contaminant side, which is right here, this is page 1 of like 256 pages. So let me just run this down. And you see where right next to contaminant says groundwater plume. That just means if it's in the groundwater, is it spreading out? So the plume is like a plume of smoke. They want to know if it's spreading out. So if you look at the chemicals, and you see where it says yes or no if there's a plume. And even if there isn't a plume, it just means that it's just sitting there. It's just not spreading. It's in that one particular area. But if you look at the chemicals and look at the yes, no on the left side of that chemical designation, these are all the things that are showing up in the drinking water. You see all those things? It's absolutely nuts. Now, you don't have to be a chemist or anything to look at this list and say to yourself, fuels and solvents. None of this stuff, none of it. We should not be consuming, drinking, bathing in any of this material. Now see, that's page 1, row 1 of 256 rows. And if I go to row 2, it's just more of the same. You know, if you look, you can see some of them are dry cleaners and all this. This is stuff they've been sending down the drain or pouring out in the backyard, or they got a leaky drum or anything. So you get the point. So there's a lot of stuff in here that, and this is on a local newspaper called Newsday. They keep track of this kind of stuff. And these are all the environmental cleanup sites on Long Island. Okay, so now let's go to another thing. Let's go to a water report so you guys can see that. All right, now on a water report, what we're looking at is, now this is a site called EWG, and they basically keep track of a lot of toxins in the environment. They're not-for-profit. I believe they're out of DC. You can call them if you want to know anything about toxicity in something. Call the 800 number and they'll tell you what it is, and how it works. But I love this tap water database because it basically gives you the ability to look at your water report in a readable fashion. Water reports need to be in a readable fashion. Everybody doesn't have a degree in biology and chemistry and all that crap to like go through plus minus this and that and the other. We all just want the bottom line. Is this stuff safe? And is it, how much of it is in our water? Just give me some guidelines. Is it over a limit or under a limit? You know, and let me make a decision. So that's what they do. They make it nice, plain English. So this actually is Glen Cove City Water in Glen Cove's North Shore of Long Island. And this is Glen Cove City Water in Glen Cove's North Shore of Long Island. And 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 Glen Cove's North This water report was sent to all the customers that they pay their bill, and they send this water report to them every year. But this is a breakdown. So they have 5 contaminants over health guidelines, and they have another 28 contaminants in the water that this water company actually tests for on a monthly, weekly, or yearly basis. Most of the stuff, I believe, they test kind of like weekly, and they give the status, and then they compile that data into like a yearly report or every 2 years, and they send it out. Okay, so let's look at the report. So these are the 5 that are over a health guideline. They are extreme in the water. But this is what's coming out of someone's faucet in this area. So the beauty of this water report is that, you can click on anything. It tells you what it is and how it does. So here's a little interesting something with a water report like this. So we can tap on, let's just pick one. Some of these acids and stuff. And basically, they are byproducts of disinfectants is what this is. This particular one, HAA9, is so like if you take chlorine and you put it on something organic, it gives off an acid. When it kills that bacteria, it gives off a byproduct, which is an acid. And that acid is something that actually is, not great for you, to put it mildly. So, but when you look at some of these chemicals, now, the reason why this one is high in the sample that they took is because we put a lot of disinfectant in the water, because we have a lot of organics in the water. We have a lot of living things in the water that we have to kill. So like if you have a pool in your backyard, you had a big pool day, a bunch of people in the pool, next day you may shock the pool, put a lot of chlorine in there and shock it, kill off everything, because people's body's been in the pool. You want to make sure your pool doesn't have anything in it. So that's what they're doing with your water system. They're shocking it. And one of the other pieces that's high in this water in this area is nitrate. Now, nitrate is high. The reason why nitrate is high is because we have a lot of, on this end of Long Island, we have a lot of septic tanks and cess systems. And a lot of them are old school. Basically, your sewage goes into the backyard and just breaks down in the soil. So you put flush some enzymes down there, help it break down faster. Or sometimes you got to have it come and they got to dig it out and put a new one in. But whatever's in the soil is in the drinking water. So now when you have nitrate in the water from human fecal material in the water, you obviously have to kill that biology in the water. So you add a lot of disinfectant. And when you add a lot of disinfectant, you get an over occurrence of these acids in the water that actually make it worse. So the cure is actually making the problem worse to some degree. So when you look at a water report like this, see this one here, it says it right here, you click it and it tells you it's from agriculture and urban runoff, discharges from municipal wastewater and treatment plants and septic tanks. So that's wastewater. So when you get a water report like this that has nitrate in the water, you have wastewater in your water. And they're putting a lot of disinfectant in the water to kill it off so you don't get a stomach bug or stomach virus. Now, this particular area, they have a lot of it in their water. They also have naturally occurring things like radium in the water. Radium is naturally occurring. The cave has radium in it. And these things can be easily cleaned up. So let's look further down the report, because like I said, I don't want to make this too long. I want you guys to see what I'm seeing. So the first 5 there are the ones you just saw. And then all of the ones underneath are all of the other things that are in the water. And by all means, this is not the total list of things in your water. This is just the things that they test for. There's some standards, some EPA standards and things that they say you got to test for certain things. So these are the things they test for. But they're telling the customer that all these things are in their water. We tested for them at the well site and they're there. Okay? And if you want to dig deeper, anybody wants to reach out to me, they can. I can send them the link for the water site, the tap water database. because even though these 5 are the main ones they have definitions for, if you go other detected, they give you the definitions for all the other ones, where they come from, what they do. All the other ones are also listed in plain English, so you can kind of figure out how you can avoid them and that kind of thing. But one of the main things that you have to do is you have to clean this stuff up. All of this stuff has an effect on your microbiome, all of it. When you are ingesting these materials in like this every day in your water, you are actually killing off, making new compounds in your body from these things mixing. It is a bad soup, and it's basically pollution. There's no other way. We are just living in a time where, as human beings, we created a lot of chemicals. And okay, so I use Fabuloso in my house to clean my countertops and my sink at my house and my bathrooms. I spray it, I rinse everything down, everything looks clean and great, it goes down the drain. My neighbor uses Ajax and bleach. My other neighbor uses ammonia and something. It all goes into the same sewer system, and it creates crazy toxic compounds because these chemicals are interacting with each other in the sewer system and then going into the drinking water. So that's why you have all of this stuff popping up. When they pull the water out, we have all of this stuff popping out. So you got to kind of start thinking about how you eliminate these things. And that's one of the things that obviously my company, what we do for a living, but the way we do it is not just saying, oh, we're just going to get a carbon filter and just, send the water through a carbon filter and suck this stuff out. That's not what we're doing. A lot of other people are doing that, but that's not what we're doing. We're looking at what's on your water in your water report. Then we're giving you a system where we can take out this particular material and clean it up in your house. There's nothing, I won't say there's some things that are close to 100%, but there's nothing really that's 100%. But a lot of these things, you have to be more specific with them to actually clean them up, because if you're not, you could end up buying a system that actually is making the problem worse. And you don't want that. You want to buy a system that's making the problem better. So let me give you a quick example of that. So like in Glen Cove, I would never put in a house a giant 400-pound filter filled with carbon. The reason I would not do that is carbon is organic, and they have in their water a large amount of nitrate and nitrite in their water. In simple terms, nitrate and nitrite, it's also organic, and when you put chlorine on it, because it's poop, and you put chlorine on it, it turns it into a gel. And this gel, when it's in the water in your glass, you can't see it. But when I catch it with carbon, it turns sticky. So if I fill up a 6-foot canister filter water softener in your basement full of carbon, and it's got all of this stuff in it that's sticky, now your filter is ineffective because it's not touching the water anymore. It's gunked up with glue from the nitrate. And actually, if you go back and test the unit, you'll find that now, before you had nitrate in your water in an amount that was at 39 times or 38 times, as according to this water report. Now, if you go back and test it, and you have a filter, and you go back and your filter's on and working, and you go back and you take the tap water sample, it'll be at 100 times now. because your filter now is catching it and actually putting more of it in your water because it's the wrong filter for your environment. Details matter. If you go to your water company and they have a lot of something in the water, they don't just say, I'm going to go get carbon and take it out. They go, what is the chemical? And then they go and find a system for that material to remove it. It's not cookie cutter. So I say that to say this, and I'm going to wrap this video up. You need to actually get a little bit deeper into what is in the water, because your body depends on it, the health of your children depend on it, the health of just everything in general. Babies, when they come into this world, are being exposed to this kind of stuff, and it has to do with how we live as human beings. We live in a very toxic world, and you need to clean this stuff up. One of the other things I'm going to address probably in more detail is the fact that most people believe, and when they look at a list of chemicals like this, they're more concerned about what they're consuming. I'm drinking this, I'm drinking this, I'm drinking this, which is, yes, you don't want to drink stuff like this. But when you drink, stuff goes into your stomach, goes into your intestines, and there is a system in your body that says, I know what this is, I'm going to use it, and I don't know what this is, I'm getting rid of it. That's your waste water. You see, you pee things out, you poop things out, so there's a system. But when you bathe in and shower in and breathe in toxicity, it goes through your skin or goes through your lungs and goes straight into your bloodstream, and it bypasses all your fail-safes that are there to kind of put checks and balances on what you drink and consume. So it is just as important to get this toxicity out of what you're bathing in as it is as far as what you're consuming and actually drinking and cooking with. So, I know you guys probably remember back in the day when Flint, Michigan was going through their thing with lead water, and people was like, oh, I'll just boil my water and I'm good. And the doctors freaked out. No, don't boil the water, because you're concentrating the lead. The steam is coming off and the lead levels are going up. And then people were saying, oh, I don't have to worry about bathing my kids. I can put them in a bath. The water's still good for bathing. And they went, no, don't bathe your kids in water with lead in it, because things go through your skin. It's not just about what you're drinking. Like the babies that came up with lead poisoning in Flint were getting it because they were showering in it. They were bathing in it. The lead levels were going up. They were consuming it. Their lead levels are going up. So it's a total thing. And even, breathing in, you go into a construction site and they're ripping an old house from the 1950s and you got all that dust in there. There's lead in that dust because they used to use lead paint. So all of that construction debris and dust, you're breathing in lead. So these kind of things matter. And the point of this video today was to get you guys to see that you gotta come up with the right solution. You gotta have knowledge about what you're doing to your body and your microbiome, because you're mostly made up of small little bacteria. And small little bacteria and viruses and fungi are not going to survive in 1,4-dichloromethyl whatever. So you need to clean that stuff up. And the other point of this is that you need to clean it up with the right equipment. If you don't clean it up with the right equipment, you actually can make the problem worse. So next time, we're probably going to dive into some talk about plants, plant biology, soil biology. We're going to go into some of those kind of things. And the reason why I'm going to flip-flop between these two topics, and because, like I said, it's AquaRite ecosystem, is because the same issues that we're having in the soil with our drinking water is these toxins that you're seeing on this list are actually in our soil. That's why they're in our drinking water. These same toxins in our soil are creating the reason why your vegetable garden didn't do that well, or your trees are suffering from diseases. and you're trying to grow things and they're not doing well. So you're having to go out and add all of this nitrogen and put all these things in the soil so your plants grow around your house, is because your soil is dead. The microorganisms in your soil are dead because you got all these chemicals in the soil, which you're getting into drinking water. So I want to give you a full picture. So we're going to talk about that because, like I said, I have like 40. I think I can't forget the count. I'm going to count it up for the next video, but I think I have 42 fruit trees on the property here at my house, and I'm going to give you my horror stories about that and how I fixed that stuff. And it gets back to the same thing. I had to fix the soil and the soil microbes. And once I fixed the soil microbes, all my tree diseases went away. And my trees are giving me big, healthy, sweet fruit. And my vegetables are doing great. So we're going to talk about why that is and how this whole thing is tied into the same thing. If your plants are not growing, then we got a problem, because then the food you're eating is not healthy. And if the food is not healthy, then again, you're not growing your microbiome correctly. So you're poisoning it on one end from the water and the things in the environment, and then you're eating fruits and vegetables and things that are unhealthy because the soil is unhealthy. So they're unhealthy, so you're not even getting the full nutrition that you should be getting. So we want to look at the whole biome, not just one piece. So that's what we'll be talking about next time. I went a little bit over. I tried to keep it to 30 minutes. But, you know, these things happen. Thank you for watching the channel, and I'll talk to you soon.